right, now it's better. Bad pseudo is bad. Don't listen to me, dude. I'm bad. I keep forgetting because Twitch you just stream, right? It just goes to your channel and you just stream it. YouTube you can create like events for your streams, and then you have to like make sure you click the right event to stream your stuff. And I always forget to click it.
I see.
Bad pseudo, bad. Let me get rid of this.
Oh no.
Sounds like a job for scripting.
Sounds like a job for these streaming platforms. Just need to be better.
That's true.
All right, now I think we're set. Stream manager. Wow. Okay, now we're ready to rock. Yeah, looking good. Can someone go on one of the channels and check the audio and stuff from your end? I don't want to create a loop.
Okay. Let me see.
Like go to your stream?
Yeah, twitch.tv/Mateo.
Is it Twitch? Okay, Twitch.
Twitch or YouTube, it doesn't really matter which one you go to.
It should be in the following.
I'm gonna put it in the Discord room.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
I'm not sure if the Twitch link is working. I mean, it says like live, but I guess I'm not seeing anything. It says offline also, but it says live, but offline at the same time.
Oh, is it because I like restarted the stream?
I see.
It's probably because of me. Oh, YouTube better channel, dude. Twitch bad, YouTube better.
I see. Twitch was just loading.
Oh, Twitchy doodle.
Okay. Nice. Stop. I see.
Hi, I see the Twitch chat. Let me see if I could do anything about that real quick. Sorry. Bad streamer is bad.
Technologies usually don't work when you need them to work.
No, never. None of this stuff works ever. It's it's fine.
There should be like a law like that. When you need something to work, it doesn't work. Murphy's law.
Okay, I see YouTube coming in fine. Twitch is the one that's being weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going on Twitch, I can see the chat, but it says you're offline.
But it says on the followed channels that you are online.
Oh yeah, it says you're online, but you're not. It tells me I should watch your last VOD.
What the hell, Twitch? Is it because did I delete the wrong VOD like an idiot? Bad. Maybe I did this. Don't listen to me, dude. I'm bad. Perhaps I deleted the wrong VOD like a dummy. I keep forgetting because Twitch you just stream.
Well, it says I should gift a sub.
Yeah, you should give the sub, dude. Yeah, dude.
Okay, I'll do it.
Do it. Your stuff. All right, let me stop and start again. Jesus. Sorry about that. Bad pseudo bad. Let me get rid of this.
I'll gift one sub to a lucky audience member. Sounds like a job for
create like
scripting.
events for your streams, and then you have to like. I'm gonna stop real quick.
Who can that be?
I always forget to click it.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, I wonder who
pseudo.
that. Yeah. Hey, can you like sub to yourself?
think so.
Huh.
Sounds
I had no idea.
Oh,
script.
okay, now we're
Wait, what happens if you
That's
ban
that's
yourself
good.
from your own
yeah,
stream?
looking good. Bad suit. I don't think you can ban yourself from your own stream.
I
Back
see.
to Twitch, back to channel. Okay, let's try this again. YouTube is still chilling, right? Everyone's happy with YouTube?
Let me see.
Yeah, YouTube is looking good.
Bad. Bad.
Ban.
I'm gonna give it a second before re-enabling Twitchy Doodle. Yeah, YouTube better platform, man. This is it. It's confirmed. Twitch sucks. Twitch is dead. Everything's dead. All right, let me start this up again. Okay, now we're sending data to Twitch live.
Live and working, yes. YouTube 1, Twitch 2.
Oh damn, Jasper, you didn't have to.
Hey, he did it. What a good guy.
It took me that long to to figure out the payment details because it deleted all of them, and I had to log into PayPal. I can't believe it went to you.
I can't believe it too. I'm so lucky.
Is Twitch still like dead for you all?
Oh yeah,
The
kind of
chat's
is.
alive.
It's chat's alive, yeah.
Chat's
The
alive.
timer restarted at the bottom. It now says live, but there's no video, and it says to watch your bot.
Can I kick this? How do I kick this?
Oh god.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna rely on YouTube, the superior platform. Or well, I guess we can't, right? Because then it's gonna do stupid things because the VOD on Twitch will be incorrect. Assuming no one cares about the VOD on Twitch. It's so dumb. Meanwhile, YouTube is just here like a champ. Like a champ, honestly. This is assuming so much better. No one cares about the VOD on Twitch. See, you make one mistake and then everything's just gets ruined. Just like Linux.
Which bot I should look at? It says I should look at the working on the home lab stream now.
Yeah, I deleted all the other ones that were like the mistakes for this.
Okay, I'm just going to YouTube then.
Data to Twitch.
There's more engagement there anyway.
True. The VOD on Twitch is good though. It shows the content. So maybe I'll just leave this going, and maybe Twitch will figure their life out and show the live stream. But the VOD looks like it'll record correctly on Twitch. So, GG, I guess. Anyway, all right. Let me share this out one last time, and we're in. Let's do this thing. Chapter 789, right? That's what we're doing today.
Yeah,
we're
I guess
doing
so.
like half of 7, but indeed.
Wait, we already did 7?
We did part of it.
Oh.
Okay.
That was scripting, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna mute myself because I'm kind of sick right now. I'm like coughing every 5 seconds, which won't be good.
I'll just mute you. I could just mute you forever. I'm just kidding. I could actually just like lower you down though in Discord. Here, say something.
No worries. I'm gonna be conscious about it, and I'm gonna mute myself when I do need to, like you know.
All right. All right, let's talk about it. 789, right? That's where we're at. I have a stream tier. Everyone's happy. YouTube's happy. We're good. 789. Questions, my friends. I'm assuming you all did the reading because I only did the skimming. You know,
Indeed, indeed.
like a good developer, like a L7 developer. I just skim and then I make an opinion about it on the internet, and that's how it
Mhm.
works.
Yeah, we started with
Um,
command editing on chapter 7 for this time around.
Command editing is. Oh yeah, I spoke about this a little bit last time, but I'm happy to answer questions about this section. So talk to me. Chapter 7, shell scripting. Who has questions, comments, or concerns about it?
I have some like questions, but they may be like a little bit from like before the shell scripting part with like sh shell. Um, I tried like um, so first of all, like what's like set UID and how much is like sudo a kind of set UID? Like set UID is when you're like I guess editing the file permission using chmod, right? Or is it?
No, it's yes and no. I guess it depends on what you mean when you say that.
Hmm.
So like the set UID is a flag, like a permissions flag that you can set on the file. And what it does is when set UID is on, the file will execute as the owner of the file, even if it's run by
Hmm.
another user.
As the owner of the file.
Right. Yeah. Assuming, unless I'm misspeaking. I don't think I'm misspeaking. Let me just double check that because I could be misspeaking because it's been a long day. Where was it in the book for that?
It's in the part where it says like when you're like writing scripts, you should like avoid having them like set the status to set UID
It's
and
in
have
file
them
system.
sudo.
Oh, in chapter 5?
No, chapter 7 only.
Oh, do you have a page number or like anywhere
Oh,
Wait, let me
or a section?
Control F set UID. Um, um, to page 235, I think. It's okay to run script as root, but avoid making them set UID. It's tricky to make set UID scripts completely secure. Use sudo to implement appropriate access control policies instead.
What was the page again?
So
Sorry.
that's what like, uh, um, wait, I'm gonna give you the exact page number. 188, yeah,
Okay.
and it's
Yeah. Okay. But avoid making them set UID is tricky to make set UID. Yeah. So basically what this is saying is don't put like don't give scripts set UID where like the UID is the owner is root, because then anyone that's not root can run the script as root. Instead, you should use sudo and like the sudo configuration to give non-root users more restrictive access to like use the root account. That's basically what that point is saying.
okay. Okay, I was confused about set UID and what it is, but yeah, thanks for clearing it up. I was like, okay, it's just like see you when you're just using chmod to like set different file permissions and whatnot. So is that what it means by the whole thing? So yeah, I was just wondering that.
Right. Right. So it is a permission flag that you can set on a file, and when it is set, it's just basically like, hey, the set UID bit is enabled on this file, and the file is owned by Matthew. That means if
Mm-hmm.
Jacob runs the file, it will run as Matthew, even though Jacob is not Matthew. But since the set UID is on the file, it'll run as Matthew because Matthew owns the file. That's what it's saying there.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Should I ask more questions, or
Yeah.
should
Go. It's
like
open
we?
forum. Go ask whatever you
Okay.
have. I'm here to help you
I-
all like learn Linux and answer your questions about reading the book.
Oh, okay, that's sweet of you. Right, so when I'm like declaring a function, it's like or like running like a script. It's like in that like unique shell instance, like right. It's like if I just close out the shell, then the shell just forgets about it. Is that true or
you open a shell,
yeah?
you run a
Let's just say open a
program.
terminal,
Yeah.
yeah, bash, and I just like let's just say make a function which echoes something inside like a file,
Yep.
just redirect it inside a file. Okay, so when I close it, it's gonna like that that function is gone because that function was only held by that shell instance, right?
When you say make a function, you mean like literally like creating a variable essentially. Like in that shell's
Yeah,
session, you created a function, but you didn't execute it yet. You just like defined it.
yeah, I defined it, and
Yeah.
maybe I just even
Okay.
executed it. So like, but if I close out from that shell instance, like it's gone, right? As in like that function is not available anywhere else if I just close out of that like terminal.
That's a good question. I'm trying to figure out how to answer this correctly because all right,
Mm,
because there's a lot of nuance in this. So I want to answer it in a way that makes
okay.
sense. You're in a bash
Mm,
shell right now, right? And you do like
yeah.
function foo, and I'm showing it on my screen too.
Yeah.
Function foo, you do this, and then all function foo does is echo, foo, and that's it. Now I have a function here called foo, and if I ran foo, I'd get foo, right? That this works. Now,
Mm,
this function is here in my shell session, right? If I were
mhm,
to spawn subshells, though, like if I were to do
mhm,
another subshell here, like bin bash
yeah.
again, and run foo,
Yeah.
it's not there,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. It's not there. Yeah.
If I exit out of the subshell and go back up to my previous shell, foo is
Yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, no, it's not present when you exit the shell, unless of
Yeah.
course you. I think there's an option or a way to pass it down to child shells and whatnot. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I
Mm,
think there's a way to say like keep these things, in child
mm.
shells and whatnot. But
Okay.
generally
Okay. Okay.
speaking,
Okay.
right, it is gone.
Okay.
Do you
I
mean
should.
parent shells then? Because don't the parent shells give the child shells like all the environment variables and whatnot, the functions from the parent session?
Right, yeah. I'm saying like I think there's a way to tell the parent shell, here child shell, here's the stuff that I've had. Outside of environment variables, like other things too. I don't know how to do that off the top
Okay.
of my head. But by default, like I
Mm,
just ran another shell instance. I just did bin bash and I was like, hey, give me another bash shell. I didn't pass any flags to that, right? I could have passed flags to that bin bash command or options or whatever. And maybe there's an option there to tell bash, hey, keep what you had in your parent shell, right? Like, because technically what's happening when I ran that bin bash here, what's happening is my parent shell is actually running this command first to then spawn the child shell. So if you pass flags or options or whatever, there could be one there to like pass that function down to the child shell. I think more research would need to be done because I don't know what that option is or even if there is one, but that's the idea. So yeah, the short answer to your question is no. It will not be like propagated down, and it will not live
okay.
after your shells close or whatever.
It
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
like on a
Yeah.
glance, export-f will do that.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Um.
Export shell function. That's perfect. Yep, that makes sense. So if I did like
Okay. Okay.
export f foo function, or I can have done this export f foo. Now did bin bash. Let me clear my shell real quick, and then now foo's there. Yeah, so that works.
Do you
Okay.
mind sharing on Discord as well? Because
Oh
I
yeah,
am
sorry.
just seeing you
Totally
type
forgot.
export
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. It would be. I was gonna ask you that
I
too. Yeah.
totally forgot to do that. My bad. Bad
No, it's okay.
streamers, bad dude. Bad streamers, bad.
Nah, it's okay. It's okay.
And Jacob gave me a sub. I'm so bad.
Yeah, you thought I was joking?
No, I know you did. I'm just saying, like, you gave me a sub and I'm still not streaming to you and treating you bad.
Oh,
How
okay,
dare I?
okay. It's okay. I'll donate to you on YouTube. However you do that.
Oh
Did
yeah,
I
yeah.
even do that? I
That'll
don't
probably
think
be
so.
better. I don't even know. I don't think I'm
How do I do
eligible
that?
yet. Am I?
I can give you
Um,
100 emoji.
Oh, that works. That's donating in a way. Sorry.
Um,
What's the next question?
I mean, I had like the part of the like larger question that was like, okay, so there's a way to export like stuff too. So the thing is like, what if I like write a script and it's like bot or something, as in like I change the path variable, or like the other day I was like messing around and I aliased unaliased basically, so I cannot like unalias something. And yeah, is there any way if I export something like that to as in as something like maybe like changing the path variable, and then I cannot like do ls cd, any of those things just stop working because the path variable is just gone. So is there a way for me to get out of that situation? Like I did not do it like across, like I did not export that script to anywhere.
Right.
So I just like killed my screen, like the terminal screen, and it's just like it went away because like when you open a new screen, you have your old path variable back and everything. So yeah, I was just wondering
Yeah.
if like you do botch or something like that, is there a way to like just go to like just I guess level 0 and
No.
just
The
do
short
things?
answer is no. There's no way to like go back to that default state easily. Like
Mm,
in
mm,
Linux, generally speaking, when you do a destructive operation, it's destructive. There's
yeah.
no way to like undo it or whatever. In the shell,
Mm,
like if you spawn child shells or whatever and you like run something in that session and you like kill that session and you spawn a new session, that new session is
yeah.
fresh again, right? For all
Yeah.
intents and
Yeah. Yeah.
purposes. But if you like
Yeah.
modified the binary on your system, it doesn't matter how many shell sessions you spawn, it's done. But
Mm,
yeah, it just depends on whether the operation that you did that was destructive was like session scoped or not. Like exporting a
mm,
variable, that's session scoped. So you just kind of kill the session, get a new shell, and it's gone. Updating your
mm,
path, session scope, it's fine. Removing a binary
mm.
on your system or something, that's global scoped essentially, right? That's going to
Oh,
persist no matter what.
okay. So the like changing the path variable, like if I like restart Linux, it's just gonna go back to the older variable. It's not like gonna have like the new anything.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, because yeah, in scripts you do need the path variable sometimes. So I was wondering, in this case, if I like botch up like something, how bad it is,
Yeah,
or
I
like
do
if
this
it doesn't
myself.
like.
Like I have dot files, so I have
Yeah.
pretty big. I have dot files here. I use the fish shell. Can't speak
Mm-hmm.
today. I don't use bash. I use fish. But it has the same
Mm-hmm.
concept of a path, and I manually
Mm-hmm.
like manage my path myself. So every time I spawn a
Mm-hmm.
fish shell, I'll get these things on my path because it's specified in my fish configuration. You can do the same thing with bash, and actually I used to do bash, so I have the same setup in my bash profile. I had a path munge function which knew how to add things to the start or the end of path, and I would just like
Mm-hmm.
add a bunch of stuff on my path
Mm-hmm.
in my bash configuration. That way, no matter where I spawned a new shell from, it would run my bash config and set my path up for how I like it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, that insight was like pretty good. I was like wondering because I kind of always feel iffy about like doing anything with the path variable because I feel like it's gonna mess things
Oh
up.
yeah, don't
But yeah,
don't
like
feel iffy with the path variable so much. Like all of the programs that are out there that do like NVM or RVM or all these version manager programs, that's how they work under the
yeah.
hood. They just install crap and Brew. Look at Brew. If you're on a Mac system, Homebrew or whatever it's
Mm-hmm.
called, that's how that works under the hood too. It just installs software to some location on your system and then updates your path to point to it. That's literally how it works under the hood. So don't
Yeah.
feel bad about modifying your path. Like you could always, and you could always echo it out if you're unsure of what's happening, and then hold on to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then like spawn a new shell, echo it out in the new shell, and compare and contrast and see like, did I do something wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Since we are on this same topic, like okay, so every single cell instance also has its own environment variables. Are those something in a file? Like every single time I like open a shell instance, on a program, does a file gets created somewhere which has all the environment variables or something, or
Kind of, yeah. So on a Linux machine, you have like etc bash rc, and this etc bash rc has a bunch of like bash configuration on it that loads different things and does different things. This is what's responsible for loading a bunch of environment variables. Then whatever commands get run as a part of this, they can export their own environment variables. And then your user level configuration will run and possibly export its own environment variables. So like a set of files are run every time you open up a shell, and that will, like, the side effects of running those files will export environment variables or not, right? Depending on what you're doing.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Clearing
And
that
again,
out.
that's something I also do with like my fish conf.d sudo. That's something I also do. I export environment variables myself for the various things that I want to do. So
I saw something in your .files directory. Like you had, like I remember seeing a bunch of times in various Linux contexts, I'll see something like confd, like conf.d, and you had something like that too. And I have pretty much guessed, like, yeah, this is just a convention to talk about something that used to not be a folder and now it is a folder or a directory, that is. Is that true? Or like what does that mean?
I don't know where the like etymology or the source of conf.d comes from. Like, I don't know, like, at what point did people use that as a convention? But all it really is when you see like a .d directory, it usually signifies that inside this directory is one or more configuration files that will all get loaded in some lexicographical order. That's usually all that means. So in here I have conf.d and I have one file in here, but I could have had like 20 files in here and split my configuration out across different files. Like I could have done like a rust.fish, a go.fish, things of that nature. I could have gone really crazy, and all of them would have been loaded in some ordering. That's all it is. And you'll see conf.d directories in many places in Linux. One very popular place is etc yum repos.d. So this is like all of the repositories for your system. If you're running like Fedora or some other enterprise Linux, this is all of the repositories for your system. So if I like ls this real quick, you'll see I have a bunch of different repositories on this machine, and they all get loaded. And really quick, the reason why I bring up the ordering, and I'll do that, is that some of these conf.ds, like limits, etc limits.d, where is that one? I don't remember what that is. Trying to think of one. I might not have access to that. One sec, let me drop down. I can't type twice. Okay. Oh, right. Sorry, don't mind me. I'm just doing things. Etsy limits, is it limits.d or is it like Etsy security limits.d? Yeah. So sometimes you'll see things like this where you have like a .d directory and it has like a prefix in front of it, like some number or some prefix. That's because the files in this sort of .d directory get loaded in like lexicographical ordering, and you use these numbers to like enforce an ordering that you want, right? Because like in the Go and Rust example from before, if I wanted my Rust config to load before my Go config, well, R comes after G in the alphabet. So like by default, Rust will load after Go. If I wanted to like change that, I would put like a prefix in front of it and like swap the ordering to my liking. So yeah, sorry, a lot of words there. My bad.
Okay, so just a general convention.
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe somebody would want to see the .d to know it's immediately a directory rather than a file, but it does mean more than just that.
Right. I don't know where the convention of .d really comes from though. I'm sure someone more experienced or more tenured than I may have been around longer and knows where that came from, but I don't know where that came from. I'm sure like search engines can know.
I found it's also helpful for various other reasons, like beyond um, combining together all these files. It also will. There's no way it could conflict because everything has its own like separate .d directory.
Yeah, it looks like this just came out of like early Unix implementations, like just a convention. It's not obviously um load bearing, like .d doesn't signify that something's a directory or not, right? Like the file type signifies that. But I think it was just a convention that was adopted based on, I don't know what people say here. You can read up this stuff.
Well, and I just found out HTTPD is HTTPD or HTTP daemon.
Daemon, yeah. So that's another thing. The D character at the end of like a program name usually stands for daemon, right? Like system D, system daemon, SSHD, SSH daemon, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth.
I forget what it was, but whenever I was saying HTTPD, someone thought I was saying ChatGPT. So it's something like H. I don't have no clue. I'll say it if I remember.
So someone in the YouTube chat, Brett, is asking, when would damn it, there we go. When would like the ordering matter of like these config files? And things in this limits file is a good example. So I'll just like cat these out real quick. So the limits that I'm just going to use this as an example because it's the first one I found. Limits in a Linux system or Unix system specifies different like resource limits that a processor or a user or something can use, right? If you've ever heard of like open file limits, this is where you would define something like that. And ordering matters here because you could have two different files have the same config, right? Or have configuration that's targeting the same user or the same configuration parameter, right? Like one's going to set foo to 7 and another one's going to set foo to 8. So having the ordering here just determines on which one wins, right? Because the last one loaded will win. And that's what you would want to do. So generally speaking, you would order these files in a way where like the defaults are applied first and then more specific overrides are applied later. And that's where those would matter. Because one thing you don't want to do is like put something here like, 99.conf, lol .conf or whatever, or I'll just do 99lol.conf. You don't want to put a file here, gets loaded last, and like overwrite everyone's stuff and ruin everything. You don't want to do that. Or you do. I don't know. Maybe you want to do that. Cool.
Another question about, since you just typed something again. So like for glob patterns, it mentions in scripting that the double quotes will expand and the single quotes don't. But if you used it with just a star with no quotes at all, so do those act similarly to the double quotes? If you
use just a star like this?
Yeah, if you use a star as opposed to double quoting the star.
Like in this regard, like a star like this?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bash will treat these the same for all intents and purposes in most cases. Like it's hard to say because it depends on what's processing it. In this case, Bash, like if you put single quotes around this, right? I'll show you. If you do star with no quotes, let's start there. Bash knows, and do I have anything crazy in this directory? No, I just have whatever I had here. Great. Anyway, if you just do like ls star, and I'm in the bash shell right now because fish does it slightly differently. But if you do ls star with no quotes, the bash shell will interpret that to mean the glob. And I think there's like a man page on this, glob. If you do man glob, I think it's here. I think this is one, or maybe look for the bash specific one. I don't remember which one, but you can read all about it. But it'll treat this as a glob, and that just matches everything, right? Because this is like, that's how bash interprets the star. If you put it in double quotes, I'm guessing it treats it as literal, unless you do like, I guess it always treats it as literal in this case when it's quoted, whether it's single or double. Sorry, I missed a quote there. I think it looks at globs as quoted globs as literals. I think you'd have to read the manual pages and the reference to understand if there's any conditions where it doesn't do that. But based on the output here that I'm showing you, it looks like it treats it as a literal. Where the quoting matters more is when you have variables, right? So if I do foo equals, or I'll just do like person equals Matthew, right? That's a variable. Now, if I echo person, I get Matthew. If I echo like person with single quotes around it, now I get $person because that's a literal. If I go back to double quotes, or if I go to double quotes, that gets interpreted again. So this quoting really matters more for variables in that case. And in these cases, you would want to use like double quotes to have the things interpreted and single quotes to have them as literals.
I just ran ls with backticks and it attempted to run my folder name as a command. So
Like this?
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
star inside.
So
So
now you're running it as a
run it.
command, yeah.
Yeah.
Because now what's happening
like
here,
executes.
Yep, exactly. This star is being executed as a command. So it's as if you did this on the command line. You ran star. Star says, "Oh, great! Start giving me your contents of this location," and it's going to try to run the first thing it finds, which in my case was compile, which I don't even know what that is. I don't remember that file is.
Mine was compiler. I'm funny that we had two similar names.
Oh, this was me testing compile times, so I can get rid of that. But yeah, so that's what that would do. One other weird thing about variables, though, that I want to show you. So when I did echo person, you'll see I got Matthew, and then I just showed you like if you do single quotes, you get the literal. If you do double quotes, it still is interpreted. But what happens when you want to do something like this? Echo person, LOL. Now, what I want to do is I want to echo like the value here and then a string afterwards. But since these are touching, bash is like, I'm going to try to find the person LOL variable, and I can't find that, so I give you the empty string. So how do you like get the person value but also keep the LOL string? And in bash, you do that by surrounding it with curly braces. So now you get this interpreted, and this should look very familiar to maybe all of you here, because if you come from JavaScript world, the format string or whatever it's called. Yeah, exactly. It'll interpret this as the variable, stop, and then get the rest of the string there. And then same rules apply for the quotes. If you surround this all in single quotes, you'll still get the literal version. So
what if instead of quoting the whole thing, you just quoted LOL at the end and got rid of the braces? I guess the braces don't matter.
double quotes like this?
Yeah, shouldn't that work too?
This should work. This literal should work too. Okay. But I don't know if I would rely on this because, it depends on what is around this. What if you had like an errant double quote somewhere else or something and you balance them wrong?
Yeah, I prefer the other one too.
Yeah. Again, this is why you should run your bash scripts and stuff through, I showed this, I think, last stream, but you should run these things through shellcheck.net, and you should paste your scripts in here, or use the CLI tool and like let it tell you what's wrong, because this will like kind of lint your bash script and say you're not quoting right or you're doing something, like.
So it'll tell you more than like the -x or -n, whichever the one that validates bash.
Right. Exactly. See, like it'll say something like this, person equal Matthew. So it's going to complain and it's going to say, hey, echo. Obviously, it's going to say, hey, person's unused. You try to echo person LOL, but I only have person. And then it tells you like, hey, you should double quote this to prevent globbing and word splitting. And it'll just give you information and it'll link you back to the shell check like lint number. So you can like learn more if you want.
Mm.
So yeah, very, very fun stuff. Because there's little subtleties in Bash where you should have put a quote or you should have not put a quote or something, and it gets very intricate. So I'd recommend using this when you're writing serious scripts.
I wonder if I have access to that at work.
No,
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I will find out. I'll Google. I mean, not Google, but check.
Yeah. I'm gonna open 1Password real quick because I think we're probably gonna get into the cloud stuff later, right?
Indeed, indeed.
Okay. What other questions do you all have?
Is like it's from like the redirect stuff. Is there like convention, like things are executed from, let's just say, left to right, as in like I'm like redirecting stuff or like piping stuff. The reason I asked this is because let's just say you have like grep like dash c file like a word, and you are actually feeding it with the left caret um, some file, which is like the standard output of that file.
Right.
So does that mean like grep runs first and it just kind of waits for that file to like feed it something, or it's like the same, because that whole thing? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
When you run grep and a file name, I'm just trying to make sure I'm following the right way you're saying it.
Okay. I just wanted to ask if there's a like order in which like when you're like redirecting and piping stuff, is there like an order from like left to right or something? That's how like all the like stuff's gonna get executed. So when I'm like doing, let's just say
Like this, like if I have like foobar baz piped like this.
yeah. So like it's foo bar baz, is that's like what's gonna happen? And my question was like from with the when you're like feeding with like the standard out of a file through the left caret, the which like feeds into, let's just say you start grep first, grep. Oh yeah. That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
So if
It's
I did
left
like
or right, I'm pretty sure.
Left bracket, not the right one, left.
Oh, when
In
you
the
do
article I
input
sent
like
you
this?
earlier, it said
Yeah. Input.
Yeah.
You're feeding the
yeah.
standard out of like one thing to the program. So I'm like, or the command or the function, whatever. So I'm like asking if it's like here, is it a thing where it's like left to right thing is still a thing, which is like starts foo and it waits or something, or?
That's a good question. Let me again more of a nuanced thing again, which is good because these are good questions. What happens here is that when a program is executed, right? Like when a program begins execution, three different input streams are attached to the program: standard input, standard output, and standard error. When you run a program like this and you say, hey, attach the temp foo.log file as input to the foo command, what's going to happen is file descriptor 1 in this foo command is going to be the contents of this file, right? That's what's going to happen. Then the foo command is free to like start consuming that content as it sees fit. So is your question like whether or not one starts before the other? Like what's the root question there then? Knowing what you know now.
Yeah, my question was like which one, because like it's the same. This is like the same as if I like, let's just say instead of foo it was like grep. So like grep, give give it any flag, and then you have like the word, and then you have the file name, and that's without any kind of redirect or anything.
Yeah.
And like with the redirect where you are feeding it something, so I'm saying, is it like the same thing? Like it's something that happens like under the hood? That's what's happening without any redirects. Just normal crap. Yeah.
Same idea.
So,
right. When a command is started, those streams will be attached no matter what. Right. Same idea. Like the command can't start running until it has like the streams attached to it. Otherwise, how is it going to print input? Like, how's it going to receive input and output? I don't know under the hood in the kernel what strictly happens first or not, or the semantics. But as users, like, we know that when I do a grep, whether or not I redirect output or redirect input, it'll be attached to my grep command first, and then my command will run.
Okay. Another thing, since we are on this topic of like, just I try to look up what file descriptors are, and
Yeah.
it's just like, is it like whenever I'm starting a program or something, like is it some other file that like keeps track of like what's happening? Is that what file descriptors are?
It's just
Or
it's just a number. That's all it really is.
okay,
It's just a number, and I think devfd.
is 012, I believe.
I think I have to be root for this. Let me just double check. Oh man, I cannot type today to save my life. Okay. So like every process has a set of file descriptors attached to it, and the file descriptors are just numbers that refer to some file that you have open. Because you as a user, you can't actually like read and write to a file by yourself. You can't do that because the operating system doesn't give you like permission or power to go to the hard drive and like create a file and write the data. It doesn't give you that power. Instead, it exposes to you some capability to do that. Usually through what's called a system call. So the kernel will say, "Hey user, if you want to open a file and read and write a file, you have to call these system calls, and I'll do it for you because you're not privileged enough to touch files, but I am, and I'll do it on your behalf." So that file descriptor is just a number that the kernel can refer to say, "Hey, file descriptor 2 refers to this file. File descriptor 1 refers to that file," and that's all it is.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also did not know that, the operating system doesn't allow you to do certain things directly. It's just, yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Because otherwise, if the user can just touch hardware directly, you can break hardware, because there's a real drive in your machines. And if you just write arbitrary data to it, you can break it,
I just want to write directly to RAM though.
Yeah, exactly.
How would you let me do that?
Exactly.
Nothing bad could happen.
Legsy in chat, Legsy boss asked, what does the like when I did like echo hello or whatever, and I hit Control C, and they see this $C on my terminal, what does it do? That is just the how the terminal is displaying the fact that I pressed Control C. Control C is the signal interrupt, SIGINT, and that just like sends a SIGINT to your to the command that's running in the terminal, and tells it to like stop. So if I were like running something forever, so if I did like this while true echo hello Legsy sleep for 1 second and end, if I did this is running forever, right? Every 1 second it's going to say hello Legsy, hello Legsy, hello Legsy. If I wanted to stop this, I need to send a signal to it to stop this command, and the signal that I would send is Control C, right? Control C on my keyboard, and that'll send a SIGINT to the command, and that'll like essentially kill the command. So that's what
Control
you see.
Z would work here too, right?
Yeah, Control Z is sig stop. What is that one? I forget what that one is. Control Z.
It's
signal.
keyboard stop.
Is it?
Which it's not stop, but it's keyboard stop, which by default will end the program, or you can handle it and like do a soft stop, and then it'll send stop to itself.
Yeah.
So ideally, of course.
Control C is sig T stop. Yeah. Okay. In this case, it's not going to do anything because there's no like the foreground doesn't know how to yield the control back, right? So like I can Control Z all I want and send it sig T stop or whatever. It doesn't care. So I have to do SIGINT in this case. But if I was in my text editor, so if I wanted to edit a file like hello.txt, clearly I can't type, and I typed like, hello Jacob in this file, now I'm in my text editor. My text editor has taken over my terminal. I could actually type Control Z here, and my text editor actually knows how to respect it and it knows what to do. Now that text editor session has stopped. I sent it the signals to stop, and it's now in the background somewhere running. If I did jobs, I can see that it's there running, right? Oh, and there's the stops that I did for the sleeps. I can kill them in a second. But this editor command is running in the background. If I did foreground, I can bring it back to my foreground, and now I'm back in my editor. So like that's a common use case that people use for Control Z.
Oh, and that just sends the continue signal
Control
or
Z or
something
foreground?
else. Foreground.
I actually don't know. I don't know what it sends under the hood. Oh. Let's just do this. I think this is how you do it in Fish job control. I forget. There we go.
The kill signal.
The kills. So yeah, that's
I
Control
think
C,
it is
Control
from
Z.
what I remember from the chapter.
Now I'm curious of what foreground actually sends. PID job. I don't know what signal it sends or what it actually does. I would need to do more research to know what it does. Oh, I'm not looking at Discord chat. Sorry, I don't know if there's anything in there.
Oh, I just threw an article that I found pretty helpful for redirections. And it
Oh, nice.
mentioned like as little graphs and stuff pointing or like charts that point the file descriptors or like when you set standard in to point at the file, that kind of thing.
That was one of the I was doing the sad server challenges. Sad servers? Yeah. I was doing those challenges. And one of them was how to use like redirections and stuff in a weird way to like clear a process or whatever it was. I forget what it was. But that was pretty fun.
What's a sad server challenge?
Oh, it was just like it's some site that has a bunch of challenges that you can spin up. So I have it here on the thing. sadservers.com.
Okay, okay.
And there's a bunch of challenges you can do, small, easy, medium, hard, and like it gives you access to like a Linux machine, and you just like fix or do the thing it's asking you to do, and it involves you writing it involves you running Linux command and such. So it's fun.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Okay, so FG does not send the signal itself. That comes from the kernel, but it makes a series of syscalls that eventually lead to a sig continue.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I know we got on a little tangent there. Any other questions?
Do you like name your script files as .sh?
No, because I don't use Bash. I use Fish.
Oh.
So when I'm scripting, I'll do like, hello.fish. And my interpreter, my shebang line at the top will be bin fish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that in like Linux you don't need file extensions for executables. You just like the shebang handles it.
Yeah. And I don't even need the shebang technically. Like if I remove the shebang and I just put this echo hello in here and I did like fish, and I can move the file. So instead of calling it hello.fish, I call it like hello.lol. And if I ran like fish hello.lol, it'll still run. Because
really?
I'm telling the fish command to run this as a script.
Oh, okay.
No different than
What if you
me.
just run the command then? Does it just guess?
Yeah, is it like true for all file extensions or only for
this
like
will work because if it can't find an interpreter, it's going to use the one I'm in. It's going to use my shell. So this will work.
Yeah.
But if I did like sorry, I'm like hitting the wrong thing. If I did hello.lol and I change this instead to like, I don't know, this might still work. Hello from Python or something, and pretend this is Python code for a second. And I did that now, like it's gonna be like, what the heck, syntax error. But if I pass that through the Python interpreter, now it works. Because Python knows how to interpret that text as Python stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I tend to do .sh and sometimes I accidentally do .bash for a lot of the scripts I write with Bash. They happen to be in like Windows land, so I may as well just make
Right.
it clear what it is.
Exactly.
So just like I guess this is a tangential question, but like, is it like because there's a line in the book that says, like Linux or Unix doesn't has I think extensions for executables,
Right.
but I'm not sure if it was just executables or like if it's like any other files too. Like for example, maybe an MP3 file, like maybe it has like a header at the very top, like the shebang, but not maybe shebang, but with something else that just tells it what kind of file it is, and it doesn't have an extension.
Yeah,
That just
that's
made
a
me like want.
good question. So, what
Oh yeah,
is
JPG file would be yeah, that would be a good example.
yeah, I'm gonna show you real quick. I don't remember the VI or is it XXD? XXD? One sec. Yeah,
You can
there you
open
go.
the file in yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, what's this?
This is the hex of this image file.
Ah,
And yeah, there is a header up here actually that tells readers like if you open this file and you
yeah,
like started reading, sorry, I should have kept it large. If you open this file and you started reading these bytes,
yeah.
if you read them, if you like match them up to a JPEG header, it would be a JPEG file. It would show you that this is actually a JPEG file. Because like, or I might be lying to you. I might have renamed this or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it would show
Mm-hmm.
you like what file this is based on the header. And then assuming like, let's assume that you read all these bytes and it was like, oh, yep, this is a JPEG file. Then you can read the rest of the data as a JPEG and like, and treat it that way. So
Mm,
in Linux does not care what the file type is
mm,
per
mm-hmm,
se. It's the applications that care. So if I renamed this photo, right, this Matthew Snarberry.jpg. So I do open Matthew Snarberry.jpg, that's me, right?
mm-hmm,
That's a picture I have. If I
mm-hmm.
like renamed this and I said Matthew Snarberry.lol and I tried to run it through my open command, it's gonna be like,
Uh,
great, I still know how to open this because I read the header.
yeah,
I know what to do with
yeah,
this. So it didn't matter
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
this was. The extension is just for us. It's just for humans to be like,
Mm-hmm.
what is this?
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Linux basically doesn't care. It's not only just like scripts or executables. It just doesn't care like what file type it is, as long as it has a
right.
header at the top.
Generally, yes. Generally speaking, yes. Linux doesn't care depending on what application you're using, right? It's up to the application to like parse the file. And if you like passed, Matthew Snarberry.lol to some application and it didn't look at the headers and it went on the extension, then it might give you an error, right? But Linux doesn't care. It's up to the
Mm,
applications to care. Windows, on the other hand, does kind of care and it uses the extension to mean something. So
mm,
yeah, depending on what you're running in Windows too, but generally speaking, it cares.
So like for example, JavaScript, it can have multiple different extensions on the end to mean different things, but the files will be the same. So it does care,
Right.
but maybe some other places don't care.
a while ago you had like to run like the script you had like that notation which is like dot slash and like whatever script you wrote and it's
Yep.
just like basically execute that script in the current shell environment basically. um,
Correct.
so my question is like what exactly is that, because sometimes like I thought like it's like basically telling that this is the parent directory because you use it with CD or something like that, or like to go up one level and stuff like that. So like, can you like what exactly is that? Because I don't understand. Like I know in that context it means like execute this thing inside this shell, and whereas in for CD it just means like just be in the parent directory or like look for the file in the parent directory.
Yeah. So you're talking about this, right? This dot slash hello.lol.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Dot slash basically. Yeah.
So what this is saying is dot stands for the directory I'm in right now, right?
Uh-huh.
So what directory am I in right now? Well, I can use the print working directory command to find out. So if I ran pwd it says that I'm in home sudo Mateo. That's my dot right now. So the dot hello dot lol is the same as me typing all of this out, hello dot lol. These are the same because I'm in that directory already. So instead of having to type out the full path like this, the absolute path, I can just do dot to say where I am, and then slash, to be a directory delimiter, and then the file that I want to run. That's all that's doing. So these two are equivalent.
And it's
and I forgot I left Python in there. So I
Yeah.
could probably
Another key thing to know from these is like the dot slash. It takes it from your like local directory rather than your path. So like if someone wrote some other thing somewhere else, then you might use their version of the program versus your own.
Yeah.
What's on your path.
Yeah, so dot is always going to be where you are, which is nice.
Okay.
And that's
That
just the
makes sense.
convention of how people run commands. You can run dot,
Yeah.
hello lol, or you could have just ran it through an interpreter yourself. Like it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I was just getting confused because I thought the dot means something, but the dot means basically your whatever you are in the directory.
Right.
Okay.
So basically, there's different ways to run scripts.
Correct. Yep, there's different ways to run scripts.
I see.
And these two are not strictly equivalent in the sense, like when I did dot slash hello and I did fish hello, these are kind of technically different because dot slash hello will run it through my current fish process, and fish hello will spawn a new fish process. So technically, there's a chance where these execute slightly different depending on whether or not my variables are not set up correctly or whatever. Remember when we talked about earlier in the stream when we were talking about the foo function being passed down to child shells and stuff? Technically speaking, these are not fully equivalent because of those cases. Just FYI.
I see.
Okay. What else? Where are we? Are we still in 7? I guess we're still in 7.
Yeah.
All right. What else? What other questions y'all have?
Now that I know there's like piles and piles of shells, and you probably you most likely should not rely on like bash syntax, but like that's what POSIX is, yeah. So like this should be very portable because it works on any POSIX system.
Yeah, there's one of my former coworkers and I had very long discussions about like POSIX and stuff like that. Even the people that say they're POSIX compatible may not be fully POSIX compatible. POSIX is really just a attempt at standardizing the syntax so that like scripts work across most Linux Unix systems. So in general, if you're going to write a script that's targeting like compatibility with like almost every Linux system out there as much as possible, you'll generally want to stick to POSIX syntax, right? The things that are defined in POSIX. If you're going to run your script on your own systems that you have full control over, use whatever interpreter you want, right? Use whatever syntax you want because you're in control.
Because we are on this topic, that it reminds me of something that was written in the book. I think there's a table there which goes over different shells. And for Bash, it says like Bone shell, nicer but less portable. So less portable in like what sense? Like I thought like the Bash is basically a better version of the Bone shell, the SS shell in every way. So
yeah, good question. So like technically, the Bourne shell is like bin sh, right? That's what it was. And
yeah.
then even though on most systems nowadays, bin sh is no longer a thing. It's just a symlink to like whatever shell you have. So technically on my machine, bin sh actually points to bash. So that caveat aside. But back in the day, there was such a bin sh, and that was the Bourne shell. Then then that was like closed source or licensed weird. I don't remember the history, but basically they were like, we're going to create our own open shell that's called bash. and they did the born again
Mhm.
shell, right? They took the born shell and they like
Yeah.
did it again. There was some breaking changes there, right? Like there are certain things that are in bash that are not in sh. And so if you wrote a script for sh and you wrote it in bash syntax, there's a possibility that it wouldn't work because the syntax would be wrong.
Hmm.
Generally, you don't have to worry
Okay.
about that anymore. This is like years ago now, right? Like most people are on bash now. Like, we've been on bash for decades now. So you really don't have to worry about these little intricacies like that much anymore, unless you're targeting very old, like Linux, Unix operating system versions.
So where it says it's like less portable, that part is irrelevant in today's like context, day and age.
Yeah, it's generally irrelevant now,
Okay.
unless you're gonna target some very old machine that's doesn't have bash or something, or on an older version of bash, or on an older version of sh, and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you're in that scenario, odds are you know what you're doing already, right? So you'll know what to do.
Mm.
Okay. Still in chapter 7. Any more questions? Also, Twitch has not fixed the live stream yet. What a bad platform. But the VOD looks good, and when I go to my channel, the VOD is like it's correct. Like if I click it, it's nice. I see video. Other ones
Crazy.
set food to. Oh, Twitch. Anyway, any more questions?
I was wondering about, I think it mentions like grep line buffered. I wrote these notes on my phone, so it says grow line buffered, but I'm pretty sure it's grep.
I'm not sure actually. Is that in the
I
book?
think
Where is
they
that in the book?
mention
Try to pull it up.
it is in the scripting section, but then they mention a few commands like less and cut and sort somewhere in there.
Oh yeah, I saw where that was.
But they
Grep,
mention
yeah.
specifically line buffered for when you're piping some output, which like I don't think I've ever noticed a problem with not running that flag.
I'm trying to see where it says that. Oh, if you filter the output of tail F with grep, add the line buffered option to make sure you
Oh,
see each
that, yeah.
matching line as soon as it becomes available. Oh, all that's really saying is tell grep to flush buffers on each line each time it encounters a new line. So that way, if grep otherwise grep won't flush its buffer. Let me back up. Grep is going to look for some instance of a match, right? And it'll print that out. It'll print that out for you. Grep doesn't have to print out every match as soon as it finds it. It can find a few matches before printing out what it found. So for example, if you're looking for the string foo in a file, maybe bash found the string foo on 3 lines and it waited to find all 3 of those before it sent you any output. Line buffer just says, hey grep, whenever you found a match and you've hit like a new line, flush your buffer so that I get the line as soon as possible. So in the same example, if it found 3 matches for foo, it'll send you the first line as soon as it hits the end of the line, and then it'll send you the second line, and it'll send you the third line. It'll flush those buffers that quickly. That's all it's doing. And I think this author is just saying to do that with tail so that you see the output as soon as possible if you're like waiting for it. But I've never used this option before because nowadays like things are pretty quick.
Yeah, I've never thought about this or done it, and it's worked just fine.
Yeah.
So
same.
I was wondering, like, maybe grep has like some versions of grep have like a giant buffer, and you won't see it until it's or I don't know.
Again, you got to remember, heck, this book was written decades ago, right? Like the first edition of it, at least. This is the 5th edition. But grep and
Which
tail,
is 8 years old.
Yeah, grep and tail and all of this stuff, they were written decades ago. So like memory wasn't as abundant as it was today. CPUs weren't as powerful. So there probably was situations where you would want to use line buffered because it was better performance for your workload or something, you know? Nowadays, we don't really even care. There is a question in the chat from Brett on YouTube saying, are you able to create closures inside of scripts? And then he says, I don't think you can. Do you know why this may be the case? Is it because bash scripts shouldn't encapsulate state? It's because bash scripts are, it's because of the way bash variables work. There is no like function call stack per se in the way we think of it. And I think I'm going to try to give you a quick example. So I'll do like Brett.sh or .bash. That's fine. And I'll do, you know, bin bash, and I'll do something like this. Brett function foo, and I'll do like Brett equals, you know, active or something. And then down here, I'll do echo Brett. And then I'll do like Brett equal inactive. And then I'll do echo Brett. And I'll do like something like this, like, you know, 1, just for debugging purposes. And I'll do like 2, I can't spell. And then I'll run this script. Brett. All right, let me cat that out. Cat Brett, and then do Brett bash. So you see here that I didn't call this function yet, right? Like I just echoed Brett first time and it was an empty string. So even though I've never even declared Brett as a variable at all, I'm able to try to echo it, and bash is like, yeah, bro, you didn't declare this variable. Here's an empty string. But it kept going. Then I declared Brett as inactive, and then I echoed Brett again, and I got inactive. If I ran foo, right? Brett. If I ran like foo in this anywhere here, like if I just did foo, then I'd get Brett as, you know, active and inactive. So it's just the way that bash variables work, where I have global state, right? So I just kind of proved to you that there's like this global state kind of thing. And so if I were to have a closure here, I couldn't like pass that. Like I couldn't like guarantee that one invocation of the foo function has like one value assigned to the variable. I hope I'm explaining that correctly. So yeah, I don't think there's a way to get the concept of a closure in bash, in my opinion. But I also don't think I tried.
Like you wouldn't be able to return a function. Like if you had foo, you couldn't return a function that has access to like a local variable. Like local variables aren't a thing, right? Or are
You
they?
could do like, so are you saying do something like this? Let me see if I can get the example better for everyone. So are you saying I can do something like local bar equals, you know, or I'll just do like local name equals Matthew, right? So here's Matthew. And are you saying, like, what are you saying here then?
Like you define a function within this function that will then return something referencing Matthew. Like maybe you have like a counter that counts up, or like it,
yeah,
like it has access to the outside state. Like maybe you say it echoes the name and then it changes the name to like Jimothy or something. I don't know.
Yep, I got you. Okay. What did you want me to do? Sorry.
Oh yeah, like change the name in there on like
In
a
bar or out?
so like on a
out of
second
bar?
inside of bar
After the echo or before?
after the echo, just so we can see that the indications would hold the state.
Okay, so you want to
Yeah.
see that subsequent. And you're saying if there's closures, you're going to say that subsequent invocations will return Matthew. Like
Yeah.
here.
Like it would return, if there were a closure, then the name would then change, and it would echo Jacob every time, every invocation after the first.
Yep. Okay.
But if
I
there's
see.
not, then it'll do Matthew every time, I would say.
We'll do 3 invocations, and let's see what we get. Because I actually don't even know the answer to this question. I don't know if this local is created every time.
Oh, well, I guess you're not. Are you returning that function?
So you can't. In Bash, you can't return values like that. You can only return integer exit codes.
Okay, then I guess we aren't calling bar either. But could you call? I guess that, yeah, that
sorry,
would
I forgot to
redefine
do
it every
that.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this would redefine it every time too. And I think we'll get Matthew
Yeah.
here. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's redefined every time. Yeah, because like if I were to make this a closure, I'd return var.
If
and
we
then
pulled name to global or something, like if we put like name equals Matthew, like this, if we did this now, I think now we'll get Matthew, Jacob, or Jacob, sorry, twice. Let's try. Yeah, that makes sense. But I've pulled the state up anyway, so that doesn't matter. I'm not in a closure anymore anyway. So yeah. So the answer is no,
Yeah,
you
that
can't
makes
do it
sense.
because Bash doesn't allow you to return anything but integer codes, and there was no way for me to like return the function, which is what would be needed in this case. Because I would need to return function bar here so that I can like call it again and again. But I can't. I never actually tried to do closures in Bash. That's why I was curious. I knew the answer was no, I just didn't know why.
I've never written anything complicated enough in Bash that would ever need one. Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then Brett said, thank you for asking follow-up questions on this. Jacob, talking to you. What happens when you echo after the bar call? Echo, good. Let's see. Echo name. Do you mean in the way I have it now, or do you want me to change it back to the local that I had before like this? Local or global state? You tell me. I'll do local first and then see if I can do the other one. Bar echo. Well, I'd have to keep bar. Okay. So let's do that. Now we have 2 echoes with the local. Time to pick up Matthew, Jacob. This makes sense in the way I have it here because every invocation resets Matthew to the name, echoes Matthew, changes the name to Jacob because I call the function, and then echoes Jacob. So you get Matthew, Jacob. And again, if I pulled this back up to the global state, then here, this would just remain Jacob every time after the first. So yeah, that's what you would get. And Aaron in YouTube said, if you need like a closure or something, then it's probably time to pick up a real language. And you're not wrong. This is why the book even doesn't just discuss shell scripting per se. It goes into Python programming and Ruby programming because they know that like shells can't do everything. And it's probably better if you have to do something serious to pick up a real programming language instead of Bash.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Any more in 7?
I think I had another question. Like they mentioned FC, and if you like just
FC?
their strategy for making scripts,
Where was
which
that?
was inside of the scripting chapter, but I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Okay, so it's after the grep line buffered and before shebangs and before $star and before regex. So it's in sh scripting.
After grep, you said?
Yeah, in sh scripting somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, like there from commands to scripts probably. Okay. So I was wondering, like, they go in here somewhere. They have some, like, their process was echoing things instead of running them.
FC, you said?
And yeah, FC command.
I don't see that in here. Oh no, I didn't want to search this. That's a lot to search for in this book.
You can look up $star. That'll probably come up like once or twice.
I don't know if I broke this. I don't really use this PDF viewer much. Yeah, probably all the way down here.
Well, more or less, they go through the file and they write a script. And before running the script for some descriptive option, they start echoing the removals or making dir, something like that.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, right here. I think right above where you're at.
Oh, this?
I don't know if it's that. I think it's above where you're at.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. I see.
Yeah, that. Okay.
This completes
so
the actual
here,
renaming. Yeah. Bash built-in
like in the command
FC.
that they do there. So they print like the command they wrote up there. They more or less go through it all, make another bash script by echoing commands, and then they pipe that to another bash script and run it. Is that like I'm wondering how common of a workflow that is, or like if you've tried that, because it feels
I've never
odd
even
to
heard of
me.
FC. I never knew what this command was. So yeah, I've never done this. Display or execute commands from the history list. Oh, okay, I see. This is cool. So as you run like commands, like you do echo foo or echo foo, echo bar, and then you can like do history, tail -n 10 last 10. Now you have like things in your history or whatever, and now you can like pull from it. Oh, this is the wrong history because I was it's fine. Don't worry about it. But now you can like basically build up those commands from your history into a script. That's cool. I've never done it before, but that's cool. So no, I would say this is not a common workflow.
Yeah, and then the other part of that is they, like, the part I'm wondering more so is, do they, like, they're echoing their commands, so they're going to run, and then they then pipe that to sh, or instead of removing the echoes, like instead of just running it, they just pipe it to another shell, which feels weird to build out your program by echoing things and then piping that to the shell.
Yeah, I don't ever see operators doing this, but you could. Like, I'm sure there's a use case for it. Like if you're in a situation where you don't have like interactive capabilities to like edit something, and you only have, because I've been there before. I've been where you're on a machine, something's broken, you can't do much, and like you have to kind of be creative. So I'm sure there's times where that might be appropriate, but in general uses and like work, I don't see people doing this.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I learned some cool stuff about. Oh yeah, I did have another question on this chapter, but before that, I just found out a bunch of cool stuff about regex and I don't know what else I was gonna say there, but yeah, I had a question about, like, they mentioned Python 3 is not very common right now, or not right now. When this book was written in 2017,
Yeah.
they mentioned that Python 2 is less prevalent. They linked to a bunch of websites that are now down. So I was wondering, because in my experience, having not been programming as of 2017, um, it's more common now to see Python 3, and Python 2 is more legacy from
Yep.
what I have seen.
That is basically that's the truth nowadays. There was a big time, like there was a time where I remember this when I was working back in this time period. Python 2, a lot of stuff was written in Python 2. Python 3 was coming down the line, and people were like, "Oh, I'm so excited about Python 3." And then everyone's like, "We have so much stuff in Python 2. How could you release Python 3? It's going to break everything." And it really fractured the Python community. and honestly, I think drove adoption away from Python in general. But yes, nowadays you're really just going to see Python 3 like in the new tools. Some older tools that like are pretty stable are still might be Python 2, but if you're starting net new stuff, Python 3 is what you'll do. And I think even Fedora, I don't think Fedora has a Python 2 interpreter anymore. I don't. Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong key on my keyboard. Yeah, like I think Fedora now is just like, yeah, we're on Python 3. I don't even think it has Python 2 installed by default. So yeah, Python 3.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. And I'll have a lot more questions like that for the cloud chapter.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah, I think that's it for there. I thought the Ruby syntax with the ampersand to call a method on a generic, like a point-free way of calling a method on something was cool. And I kind of
Oh yeah,
skimmed
yeah.
the
It's
rest of
pretty
that.
cool. Yeah, Ruby. I like Ruby. Ruby's pretty interesting. Very, very fun scripting language, I think. Very cool one. But now like it's like, yeah, I don't have to reach for it anymore though. You know, like Go's pretty good with this stuff too now. So I don't find myself reaching for something like a Ruby or a Python anymore. But yeah. I guess the one thing I'll say about regular expressions here is that everyone should learn regular expressions. You should take some time to go to like regex101.com or whatever, I think. Regex101.com. Is that what it is? Yeah. You should take some time, go to regex101.com, pick your flavor of program that you usually work with. Like if I was writing Go, I'd pick Go. And like just look through the docs a little bit here and write some regex because I think everyone should know regex. I don't think I'm gonna cover it on here though. It's not really worth spending time on it.
Yeah, the article they linked inside of there for catastrophic backtracking was pretty cool and great to show me that there's a lot for me to learn for regex, and
Yeah.
I'll probably read more about that. But
It's a common interview question.
yeah,
Implement basic regex. It's a pretty common interview question for a lot of companies. I know previous company of mine, a previous employer of mine used to ask a regex question. But yeah,
yeah,
I think
and I
people
thought
should
it
know how to
was
use it.
yeah, I've seen a bunch of things for like DOS attacks based
Yeah.
on your regex, and I do see some like regex that have written that could cause like DOS attacks. Like if someone happened to know an endpoint and
Yeah.
they wanted to write a really long regex so they knew the query, then they could probably make that server very sad. There's nothing
Agreed.
like too fancy that would be like double like they're mentioning in there, but it is.
For
Yeah,
me,
I
like,
mean,
I mean, you're a Vim user as well. Like you know like what it is and whatnot. For me, the power of regex comes in your day-to-day coding and working. Like I rarely search by exact text in that regard. Like unless I'm doing basic searches, right? If I'm looking for Matthew, yes, I'm searching just for Matthew. But when I want to do more powerful searches through the code base and stuff, I'm using regex, right? I'm using dot stars, I'm using character classes, I'm using these things to search more powerfully. And I would not be able to do that if I didn't know regex. So I think everyone should know regex, even just to search through their code and stuff better. You know, and I
yeah,
know people are gonna be
came
like,
up for
oh,
me for the. Oh god.
you know, I would say I know people are gonna be like, oh, but that's what LSPs are for, and that's what tree sitters for, and that's what like, yeah, you're totally right. You are right. But when those aren't there, or when you do need to do like things that aren't searching just on symbols, regex is really good for that.
Yeah, a few use cases that I remember as of recent, like inputs in HTML allow for patterns to mark it as invalid or valid. So
Yeah.
great to know there. And then like I worked on some web servers that rewrote URLs to other URLs or rewrote headers to other headers. And those got pretty complicated eventually because there's multiple layers of backwards compatibility needed.
Okay, are we finally into chapter 8? Is that what I'm hearing?
Never. I'm gonna ask 10 more questions. Just kidding. I'm good.
Okay. I think chapter 8 is gonna be very quick. So, any questions on chapter 8?
Um,
Mm,
I have a. I guess I wrote 3. Oh yeah, okay. So like this whole chapter, like probably the whole chapter. How common is it to do the whole thing that they're mentioning here, which is like, okay, we have a computer a big giant system where people are over a network have certain permissions for files, and you mount their home directory to another mount versus just like reimaging something or giving someone a VM to work off of.
It's more common, I would say, in the academics. Big institutions here. I'm just gonna pull up some random person's work. Big institutions at colleges would have a massive like Unix system. I don't even know if my stuff's still here. Is this my stuff? Document you're looking for? Yeah, I'm dead. They would have basically a big Unix system, and they'd carve up that Unix system for all the students, and they give students like access to the Unix system, and you're able to like put files in there and websites in there, and you can run it. Like right now, I'm in this person, Alex G or whatever who this is. I'm in their Unix account at NJIT. Like they have a file in here that is serving this that they have a file in here that's being served, right? This PDF. So I would say the act of taking a Unix system and carving up multiple accounts and giving them access and blah, 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 this whole thing is more common in academic institutions or very large companies or something. In your day-to-day work where you're deploying apps for your company, you're just creating new VMs for different use cases. You're doing like a VM per app or something, you know? So I would be very shocked if you ever have to run in any of these commands in your day-to-day work ever.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, when I've worked at various places or had like VMs, typically it's either I have a computer that gets reimaged, or I have some VM.
Right.
It's never been like we're all connected together and have access to the other things. Like there's like network drives, but it's not like there's access controls on various files that is shown through the OS. It's just through like some
Yeah.
like a SharePoint or something.
Yeah. So at work, like some of us log into the same Oxide rack, and that's a Unix system under the hood too. And there was a time where I was troubleshooting something with one of my coworkers, and he like was like, "Oh, I see you logged in," and I was like, "Yeah." And then there's some commands you can run on a Linux Unix machine, like W, to see who's logged in. So you see like, you know, here's where I'm logged in. You can do write to someone's terminal. You can do, I think is it finger? Yeah, I think it was finger to like, I forget what finger does. I think that's also shows you where people are logged in. But you can do these different commands, and he wrote to my terminal. He wrote to like, you know, my TTY and said, "Hello, Matt," and it popped up on my machine, which is really cute. So like if I showed you this real quick, I can do write. How does the work? I forget how it works. I think it's write user. Yeah. Right, sudo Mateo TTY2, and I can do like
Right.
LOL, and then that would like appear on my terminal or whatever, however it works. I forget how
Mhm.
it works, but yeah, you'd be able to do that. I think this is the right semantic. I don't remember if I'm writing it correctly, but yeah, it's really fun. So if you ever like have multiple people on the same Unix box, you can just have fun like that. In modern days, you're not doing that. You're just everyone's getting their own VMs or computers or whatever.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. And then like they mentioned like Active Directory or like Microsoft Active Directory that is
Yeah.
uses this to build things out. And then it's more like a SaaS kind of thing rather than like the job of a sysadmin to like go pull all of this out and add users, delete all their stuff later.
Yeah, nowadays you have a concept of an IDP, identity provider. So I'm gonna pull up the wiki real quick. Nowadays you have this concept of an IDP, which is an identity provider. So you have like Active Directory, or you have like Google, or you have whatever, and you use that as a single source of truth of where your user identities are, and they like that's how they single sign on and stuff. I would argue that this is more relevant for people to learn than like learning how to manage low-level Unix accounts. Like OAuth and OIDC and SAML, like these things are more important for us as like application developers than like knowing how to run user add on a Unix machine. So
Yeah, it makes sense.
cool. Any other questions for 8? I mean, there's not much here. I mean, the Etsy password file is where your user information is located, right? Like the information about your
Yes.
users is there. The Etsy shadow file is like where the hashed passwords of your users are located. So if you gave someone this hash, like this is considered a sensitive value. If you gave someone this hash with enough time and compute power, they can crack this hash and get access to your password. Generally speaking, that would probably be on the order of hundreds of years, depending on like the hashing algorithm you use. But still, this is considered sensitive data, so I won't show mine, obviously. But on some like capture the flags or security competitions, they do this, right? They use a weaker hash and they say, "Hey, go pwn my system," and then your job is to like find the hash and crack it. And so yeah, so that's it for those.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying interesting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it is. Etsy group is the same thing as Etsy password, but for groups. So there's that. You can add users manually, and you can use user add, user mod, user del, or group add, group mod, group del to like add or remove users and groups. And you can like lock users if you want to like keep them locked out of your system or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much this chapter in a nutshell. And I don't think there's anything else worth really discussing here unless you have questions. And yeah, LDAP and Active Directory are just ways to like, have a directory of users and then like kind of grant the ability for those users to log in to other locations.
Log in into the locations.
Sorry?
Hello.
Yes, log into other locations.
Yeah. Odds are if you work for a large company, you're doing something like Active Directory, LDAP, SAML, you're doing something like that at some level. Cool. All right. Chapter 9?
Is it the book club?
Yeah, it's a book club.
Yes.
Okay, I will join later. Farewell. I don't want to disrupt.
No, it's fine. We're chilling. All
I
right.
forgot to set the status, and now I did.
I know. I've always forgot to set the status. I'm so bad. I told you, bad streamer, bad man. Bad streamers, bad. Anything else on chapter 8 before we talk about chapter 9? Our last chapter for this session.
No questions here.
All right, chapter 9, cloud computing. Let me have it. Give me all your questions, please.
Most of mine are historical. I ended up reading the entire chapter, and a lot of it wasn't really new to me, so it was a pretty quick read for me.
Okay.
But, I have some like, yeah, so like they mention like a bunch of cloud providers somewhere in there, and I was wondering how accurate those were because they mentioned like GCP's on the come up. As they
Okay.
say, it's a usurper,
I have
and
to
I feel like it's
obviously say that all of these cloud providers are a lie, and the only thing that you should be looking at is Oxide racks, of course, right? I have to do my I have to do my little get an Oxide rack spiel. No, yeah, so all of these cloud providers are still accurate. Amazon Web Services or AWS is literally the cloud of choice for everyone, right? Most of the internet and web and everything runs on AWS. Even if you're using like a reseller, like Vercel is just a reseller of AWS, right? Vercel doesn't run their own stuff. They just sell AWS services at a 500% markup to you. Other smaller newcomers like Fly.io or maybe Railway, I think they are starting to run their own hardware, but they still were largely, they started out as largely an AWS reseller as well, right? With their own software wrappings on top to make themselves more marketable. DigitalOcean started off so good. I loved DigitalOcean and Linode. Linode was another one in that regard. I loved DigitalOcean and before. They used to have a very simple interface for the cloud. Like they called their virtual machines droplets, and you can get a droplet on the internet and blah blah blah. Everything was so nice. and then they just like fell off. They kind of just stopped being good in a way. So I've migrated all my stuff off DigitalOcean. Linode is the same, but they're smaller, and I think they actually got bought by somebody else. I don't remember. Then there's other small ones like Vultr or Hetzner or things like that. GCP is another big one, like AWS. It's Google's version of AWS essentially, and I don't know what their market share is compared to AWS. AWS is definitely the largest cloud, and then I think it might be Azure, and then I think it might be GCP. So the top three, I think, is like that order. GCP is fine. I haven't really had any problems with it. We use it a lot in my previous company, so whatever. Never use IBM's cloud. I mean, IBM's still a thing, like whatever. Microsoft Azure is Microsoft's cloud. That's the other one of the big three. They are, oh my God, it even says in the book, has a history of outages. Do you see that? Oh my God. Sorry, I'm
I
laughing
looked
right
it
now.
up, and 31% for AWS, 25% for Azure, and 10% for GCP. So I would consider not a distant second anymore. Sounds like you dealt with some outages,
This is
huh?
hilarious. I'm so sorry. I just have to zoom out on this. Like, this is so funny. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me collect myself. My bad. My dog's looking at me like, bro, you're freaking out. What's going on? Oh, okay. Sorry. That made me laugh. Yeah, Azure is another popular cloud by Microsoft. It has had some history of outages. I've had, even as recently as the last company I was at, an entire Azure region went down, and people lost data because of it, and blah blah blah. And I don't know. Microsoft is an interesting company. They have some really cool tech, but it's like they just can't get things right sometimes. And then yeah, OpenStack, Rackspace, and other ones. I wouldn't call VMware vCloud Air a public cloud, I guess. I think it's just like, oh my God, probably doomed. I love this author. Wow. This is I gotta show people at my job this part of the book. Let me go down the rest of the list. OpenStack is people's attempt at trying to make AWS but open source and self-hostable. They wrote a bunch of like AWS style services like S3 and EC2 and whatever. They wrote like clones of those in Python and said, hey, host this on your infrastructure and you'll have a cloud. That thing was so complex. I remember a job asked me to deploy OpenStack and it was not fun. Rackspace was like another very popular cloud at the time, and they also let you like run, more bare metal stuff. They kind of fell off too, much like DigitalOcean. And VMware vCloud Air is a way of like having an AWS style, experience on top of your VMware infrastructure. And I love that it says it's probably doomed because VMware has like been bought and sold by many companies throughout its lifetime. The latest one that bought VMware is Broadcom, and they like jacked up all the pricing, and people are running away from VMware in droves right now, and they should be running to Oxide. But yes, anyway, sorry, very long spiel about all this. Please ask questions.
I don't think I have anything to say or to ask much about this one. Just like wanted to hear your opinions. And it seems like I was about on target with like AWS is the most common.
Yep.
And then, I mean, I really have not worked much with GCP, or I've worked with GCP very slightly and Azure for like literally a few days. So sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, what is a cloud platform? It's just a way to run some compute that's in a reliable data center that you don't have to manage. So the point of using any of this stuff is to say, hey, I need a virtual machine to run my application on. Hey, AWS, can you spin me up a virtual machine? Yes, I can. Here it is. And boom, it's a way of getting infrastructure very quickly in a way where it's programmable, right? Like the whole point of AWS and all these things is have some sort of UI where you can like click and say, give me VM, or have some API that you can script against and say, automate your creation and destruction of virtual machines and whatnot. Previously, before cloud providers were a thing, you had to like call up your favorite hardware vendor and say, hey, I need 10 servers and I need them to go here in my data center. And they would build the servers and ship them to your data center. And then you'd send somebody out to put the servers in a rack and put an operating system on them and put networking to them and all that stuff. That was very cumbersome. That was a lot and slow. So cloud providers were like, hey, what if we take our on-prem infrastructure and expose it via like some API? We can call it the cloud and help people do that. So what I like to say is on-premises computing was so popular and so good that these big companies packaged it up and sold it to us as the cloud at a very high markup. And then you have companies like the one I work for, Oxide, where we make a rack that you could put in your data center that gives you all of the beauty of, having like an API like AWS, right? Having that sort of elastic way of managing infrastructure, but you own the computer. You don't have to worry about like, fees and network things and that, like AWS, you own it. So yeah, a lot of fun in this space, honestly. Oh, and then these stupid words: public, private, and hybrid cloud. So dumb. This tech industry sometimes is so dumb with the terminology it comes up with. Public cloud is like the way of saying, oh, the cloud infrastructure is like on the public internet and you can like just access it, and some company controls it. Private cloud is the infrastructure is like the cloud, right? It's elastic and able to be has a nice API and stuff, but it runs in your private data center. And then hybrid cloud is like, I do both. I use public cloud and private cloud. Just dumb terminology in my opinion, because the whole cloud mantra, in my opinion, is a dumb way to describe this, because it's not a cloud. It's literally a data center somewhere. We just call it the cloud for some stupid reason. So yeah, sorry. That's, I guess, what I'll say about that. Bad streamer, bad. Any questions?
The other thing they mention in here is platform as a service is not ready yet, but I would consider, I mean, I've seen a lot of platform as a service have some success.
Yeah, it depends. So like, yeah, they have this like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. I would say out of all of these, software as a service is the most popular, right? Like this is like all of the subscriptions that we sign up for, right? We don't own anything. We just rent the ability to use these services, right? Think of your paid email account, or your paid, Twitch account, or your paid whatever account that you pay for on a recurring basis. Those are SaaS, right? Spotify, if you listen to music or whatever. It's services that are brought to you like over the web as software. Platform as a service is meant to be like, hey, give me your packaged app in some weird way and I will deploy it on my infrastructure for you. So it's meant to be like, you don't get the ability to see the underlying virtual machines and stuff, but instead I give you this platform that if you give me an application packaged in a certain way, I will deploy it for you. They've gotten pretty popular, I will agree, but they also got a little annoying because every platform as a service vendor had like a slightly different way of how they wanted your code and your app to be deployed. And they all promise like 0-click deployment, blah, blah, blah. Give me just code. And it really isn't just code at the end of the day. Heroku is a good example of PaaS. That was a very popular PaaS platform. They did it really well, right? You just drop like a nice file in your repo and it just deploys to Heroku and it's nice. But a lot of other ones like DigitalOcean's app platform is a mess in my opinion, and one of the reasons why I left DigitalOcean as a whole. And then infrastructure as service is just like, hey, we're going to give you a server. You want a server? Come get it. And you install everything you want on it, your own. So they're all popular in their own way, but I would say SaaS is obviously most popular.
Yeah, makes sense. I was thinking like Lambda's pretty popular, but it's definitely not like it like wow, it took over everything and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
Because that
Yeah.
always ends up coming back to me eventually, like for Railway. Like it's super great, but then once I need to do my own thing and
Yeah.
tweak the things, like I need a certain Rust version, then I need
Correct.
to go give it Nix or Docker stuff. And then on the Docker end, it's like, oh, okay, you have to specifically do this kind of thing to cache correctly. And it just gets harder once you need to do more specific things, which of course, I mean, makes sense if you don't have control of it.
Right. We're seeing a very big shift in the industry nowadays, especially as like budgets are being constrained and cloud providers are becoming more expensive, and people are getting outrageous bills from their cloud providers. We're seeing a shift again in the industry where people are trying to bring their infrastructure and their computing back to themselves, like they're trying to own it again, to get away from this like ridiculous cloud spending that everyone's been doing. So it's funny because like 20 years ago, everyone was deploying infrastructure on their own data centers. And then like 10 years ago, everyone's like, let's move to the cloud. And then like now, everyone's like, let's go back to on-prem and own our stuff again. So yeah, I'm
What are
always
your
I'm
thoughts?
always in favor of it, but I get it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, what are your
Sure.
thoughts on tools like Kamal, where you can still deploy to, like VPSs, like DigitalOcean, but now there's a big push from DHH with Basecamp to go to on-prem. What are your thoughts on tools like Kamal?
I haven't used Kamal specifically. I've been wanting to, but I haven't used it. So I can't say I formed an opinion of it yet. But I will say, um, he has two, right? He has Omakube, which is the Linux thing, and Kamal is, I don't remember what Kamal exactly is.
It's almost like a replacement for Kubernetes. So they wrote a reverse proxy, and they kind of wrap Docker,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, it's kind of cool. It's
Oh,
you
this
don't
is
have to
cool.
like learn all of the
Yeah, this is cool. Okay. Yeah. No, this
yeah.
makes sense. I think this is cool. I want to see more people doing this because let's be honest. Most companies are lying to themselves when they say like, I have to go to the cloud for, web scale. Oh my God, I gotta be so scaly like Google. No, you don't. You don't have anywhere near the
hmm
users of Google. You have 5 users. You could run off a Raspberry Pi. I could run your company off a Raspberry Pi. What do you mean? And I'd like to see companies taking the stance that DHH is taking, and kind of getting fed up with all of the bullshit markup and costs that clouds have been giving us, and building more local first self-hosted tooling. So I like this direction. And like, I work for Oxide, right? Like, I want Oxide to succeed in the industry and sell their racks and like help make on-premises computing amazing again. And I want to see people building these things. So that's one of the reasons why I even joined Oxide, was because I felt so strongly about on-prem being the way, that I wanted to go work for a company that was doing something about it. So I'm bullish on the whole on-prem movement. Honestly, I love reading DHH's blog posts on the topic of how they save millions of dollars and blah blah blah. And I remember Stack Overflow used to post blog posts about how they run the entire Stack Overflow, all of them, Stack Exchange, Stack Overflow, all of the sites, on one rack, right? They just literally had one rack, and it was running the entirety of their infrastructure. And I want to see us go back to that more.
Yeah, I think it's really cool and easy to use, and I think it'd be a cool demo for Oxide. Using Kamal, just showing an example.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure what
I'm gonna
Oxide's
take a note down there.
target customer is, but I think it'd be applicable to anyone really
Yeah.
who's
We're always looking
building
for
Docker images.
more use cases to showcase the Oxide rack, and I think this would be a good one. I'm gonna chat with people internally about it. Technically, like, I'm the
How do
one
you spell
responsible
it?
for it. Kamal. Kamal. Kamal-deploy.org.
it's a really easy way to
Or
to mess
base
with it. If you just spin up a DigitalOcean VPS, or even if you have a Raspberry Pi, it's really easy to get messing with it.
Another thing I wanted to talk about real quick, briefly, why my dog barks at whatever. It's okay, girl. Is what was I gonna say? Damn, I actually forgot what I was gonna say there because my beautiful dog distracted me. Oh, my website. I moved my website to running on a like ARM based machine right here in my office. I was paying like $5 a month for it on DigitalOcean or whatever. I'm like, why? And yeah, that's not a lot of money, but like, why? I'm just serving a web page to maybe tens or hundreds or maybe thousands of people. I could just run that at my house. Like, why am I afraid to run things locally? And the cloud really screwed me up a little bit, honestly. It made me atrophy in my skills of running services like locally, and I'm glad to kind of get out of it, so to speak. Okay. Questions on more cloud stuff? I don't remember how far we read into this chapter. I think we did half or the whole thing. I don't know. Jacob might know.
We did around half of it. Let me check. We read up until cloud service fundamentals. So access to the cloud is where we stopped.
Oh, good. Okay, so I guess we'll save actually like playing with the cloud provider until next stream.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Any questions on this?
I
then?
did have. I remember you had mentioned in the past that you did not, or maybe it wasn't that, but I remember you say something about you have grown to dislike infrastructure as code. Just wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Seems relevant.
Disclaimer, I used to work at HashiCorp, one of the primary infrastructure as code companies. I actually worked on the Terraform enterprise team. So I was in there. And like I like the concept of infrastructure as code. I don't like All right, let me rephrase. I like the concept of infrastructure as code in the context of automating things and codifying your infrastructure. I think that's a good thing. We should write down what the state of our infrastructure is and have it codified somewhere so that it, like in the event of a disaster or whatever, we can like recover and we can see what our infrastructure looks like. I think that's beautiful. I don't like how infrastructure as code ties our infrastructure related stuff to code in the same way that we do software, because it treats infrastructure like software, and I don't like that because it puts the infrastructure behind pull requests and commits and the releases and all this other crap. And then companies come around and then they like wrap all that in their obscure change processes, and what you're left with is a very complex way of deploying infrastructure, especially when things go wrong. Case in point, if you need 2 pull request reviews before something can get merged, and then once it gets merged, it takes 24 minutes for it to like actually be deployed, and you need to file a change request ticket and all this crap just to fix something that went wrong in infrastructure, you're now just slowing yourself down unnecessarily. And it gets even worse when you make a seemingly innocent change, like changing from foo to bar in something, and then it breaks when it goes to the deployment because AWS is down or something. And now you have to like make a quick manual change to correct it, but you don't have access to make the change. And now you want to like go back to your source code and rectify that change to match reality, but you have to go through 7,000 approvals. So for me, I just think that we took the concept of infrastructure as code a little too far, and we treat it too much like software when it's not like software, you know? So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at with when I say that. And I feel the same way about documentation. Like everyone's like, submit a pull request for my documentation. Why? So you could not read it? So you can like ignore it like the other thousands of pull requests you have in your repo? So I can wait for CI/CD to fail unrelated to my change? Like, no. Actually, no, I don't want to submit the documentation anymore. That's too much work. Thank you. So that's my feelings on that subject personally.
I like documentation as code when it's like generated
me
from
close my
said
door real quick.
code, like if it's a doc test or something.
Yeah, no, I like like I said, I like storing documentation in a codified manner. I think we should continue to do that. I think documentation should be in some sort of source control. I just don't think it should be treated as code, like as software code. That's where I draw the line. But yeah. Any other questions on cloud computing and such? Before I have to go get my
I
ass
wrote
beat by my wife
so
because
little
I was supposed to
notes.
cook dinner and she just got home. It's fine.
I wrote 5 sentences on the entire chapter, and I thought I had a syncing problem with my Obsidian, and it turns out no, I just didn't really have much to say about the chapter.
No, this is great. Because we can talk more about cloud computing next week anyway, and I'll show you more like cloud computing things. I actually spun up a droplet in DigitalOcean that I'm destroying right now. I was gonna show you Oxide stuff, but I'm on my personal computer and I don't have access to that specific instance. So next week I'll have my work computer and I'll show you some more Oxide stuff because I think it's interesting for people to see how it relates to something like DigitalOcean.
Yeah, that'll
That'd
be
be
cool.
fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do that.
Get a pile of networking questions after the fact too.
Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
So, for the next book club, how many chapters do we read? This is my first one attending. Um, what's kind of the structure?
Oh yeah. Jacob, why don't you answer that? You are
Yeah.
our mediator. I don't know. You're our librarian. I don't know. You're the person that does that.
You're a leader.
Yeah, I added you in the thread we have.
Perfect, thanks.
And I guess I'll add you in with the actual message. So like this is week 4, which will probably be our last week. We're going for like 50% of the book. And this one will be bigger than the other ones, but we're gonna finish out chapter 9, do chapter 10, and then all of chapter 13. But yeah, we skip over certain sections that we feel are less relevant because this is a 1,200-page book. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's all there. Those are all the sections to read if you are gonna end up doing it. But yeah, this one's been a tougher one. It'll be 90 pages just so we can hit that goal of hitting 50% of what we want to read for this month.
Yeah, the goal overall was to like hit like to how much of this book could we read in a month essentially from what I remember. That was like the goal of the book. Is that accurate still?
Yeah, like one of the goals is just do better at reading because like something like this with my mine and some other people's ideas of reading where like take a really really long time. So like took me like a year to read like 3/4 of the rest book. So like something like this I've done just pushed harder to read faster. So like I spent like 4 or 5 hours reading the chapters for this week rather than like spending a ton of time digging into all the stuff that I could possibly dig into. So just get a high level overview and read a bunch because it's a reference manual at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a very very good book, but yeah, it's a lot to read and I think breaking it up like this is good because I mean, we spent 4 weeks on it. We're gonna get through half the book. Like that's great. And now we have the streams here, so we can go back to it. So I think it's good.
Yeah, we're actually a little bit less than 4 weeks, like 4 full weeks, because
Yeah,
the first week was like a few, like 2 or 3 days, I think.
yeah, agreed.
So yeah, that's a pretty great.
That's awesome. This is really cool that you guys do this.
Yeah, we are in our. This is our road to L7 Discord. Everyone, we're trying to get to the L7 software engineer level. That's the goal. So we try to do a lot of learning in here and keeping each other accountable, and ranting about everything else.
Yeah, and if you're
Sweet.
interested, we're gonna go through. I feel like this one's kind of tough. I guess I haven't really decided. I feel like I don't I kind of want to read the rest of it, but I think it may be better for another time. Like end it out on like a nice demo and then figure it out later. But like I think we'll be reading something more like behavioral later on, like more like career oriented stuff, because this is a lot of technical stuff to get through.
I like this. This is not something I'm going to do a book club on, but this philosophy of software design book. I really like this book. It's very nice. The chapters are tiny compared to other books, and there's good knowledge in here. So I'd recommend people picking this up and reading it. It's like less than 200 pages for the whole book, 175. So I'd recommend it.
Nice. That sounds good. And I didn't look in the thread yet, but I'm assuming we'll be trying to get through that by next Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
Next
Perfect.
Thursday.
It'll
next
be
Thursday, 5 o'clock.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday. Okay. Perfect.
Yep, there's an event in the Discord
Great.
as well if you want to like add that to your calendar, but it'll
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob.
Cool.
Thanks,
Uh-huh.
Matthew. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Any other last minute questions before we call it for this week?
No.
All right. Then I'm gonna call it. Making sure chat's good. And I will go cook dinner now, even though my wife is home and she's probably started it already, and I'm probably gonna get my ass beat. It's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. I'll blink twice if you need help. I'm blinking. I'm blinking. No, I'm good. I told her that I was gonna be recording, so it's fine. All right. Ta-ta.
bye. Thanks again.
Thank you.